Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to be taking a look at a recent acquisition from my trip to Europe, where I happened to find out about this new World War II miniatures game, BricksKrieg. Now, before we get started, do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I do try to put out a few videos each week covering board games, role-playing, miniatures, all sorts of tabletop gaming content, and I'd love for you to come along and see what we have to share. All right, now, a couple of things before we dive into the actual content of the box. I had the opportunity to go to the Bovington Tank Museum. My second visit, first one was 2 years ago on our first trip to England. And this time I was actually just going to go to the gift shop. And when I got there, there was actually a banner outside of the ticket booth talking about BricksKrieg. Now, I know I have seen it at least once before I took my trip in early September. But this just kind of brought it flooding back to my memory because I had looked at their website. It was only available in England from what I could tell. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to get it, but, seeing it actually in the shop in a way that I could get it, for an organization that I had no problem supporting. Obviously the gift shop helps fund the museum, things like that. So anyways, Confluence events, I was more than happy to pick this up. So, I went ahead and got the starter, got a few sets, and I haven't really had a chance to do much with them until today. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to look at the contents of the starter set, what you actually get. We're going to check out their website, and I had a few questions myself, so I actually reached out to the company to get some of those questions answered, and so hopefully they are questions that you have as well, and we can get those answered also. All right, so first off, let's take a look at their website. I will have it linked down in the description if you would like to see more. The website is BricksKrieg.store. All right, so fairly simple website. I will be honest, it also definitely looks like it was made by one or two guys. This is not I don't want to say it's not a professional organization, but there are a lot of things that, let's just say, a normal designer would not have missed. So give them a little bit of grace, but you'll see as we go through this, it's fine. They'll get there eventually. So what this is miniature World War II brick battles. Essentially think Lego. It's not Lego. It's generic bricks, fully compatible, but it is, completely designed, with those kinds of parts involved. They have the monthly Army Builder conscription service, which I will get to in a few minutes. You can order printed copies of the rules. I would have liked to see this, but I haven't. But then also looking at the PDF, I'm not quite sure what you would get. So we'll see. They've got starter boxes. They've got terrain sets. All of it made out of these generic bricks. And, kind of fun. So we've got some nice pictures here. I believe these are the British Piat and infantry teams, and a Cromwell that you get as part of the set. We have some German soldiers and an out-of-focus German tank. That's fine. It's their promotional material. So, honestly, the look of these, they are surprisingly adorable. I don't know why I like them so much, but I do. So, here we are. Now, as far as the conscription set, basically Actually, let's take a look at that page. All right, so it is 17 pounds, and they do say, okay, yeah, they say right here that it's 2 pounds in postage. Now, this is if you are a UK resident. All right, that was actually one of the questions that I had for them. I asked, is the conscription service available to US or Australian customers? And they replied back with, the conscription is available in the US. While there is a reduced postage of 7 pounds, it still makes it a more expensive option. Okay, so basically you'd be looking at about 24 pounds a month. And we'll see when we get into some of the pricing. That's not horrible. It's a little higher than I would like, but considering how things are going and shipping and games and all that kind of stuff, I'm not entirely surprised. So we'll keep that in mind. But basically, they're going to send you a unit, which my guess is, like in this case, you would get 3 half tracks or a unit of infantry, 3 artillery pieces, 3 tanks, whatever it is. Which honestly is not a bad deal. And you'll see why here in just a minute. So, again, for a U.S. customer at 24 pounds, that's going to translate to about $30 a month U.S. Not quite sure that is in my budget at the moment. But it is a fun option if you want to just get a little bit at a time, and they'll just send you units as they go. So there's that. Let's see. Products. All right. So they have box sets and starter sets. They have unit sets. They have single models. You know, if you just want to get one and put it on display, you can do that. They have battlefield scenery sets. You know, they did a whole D-Day cliff and bunker set. They've got, churches and houses and ruined houses and all that kind of stuff. So they're really covering everything. Let's take a look at the box sets. All right, so the U.S. edition of the Battle in a Box for 65 pounds, you're going to get a German Panzerschreck unit, a German infantry unit, 2 infantry units, sorry. Okay, I guess I should just read the list. You're going to get 3 Panzer IVs, 2 Panzer Grenadier infantry units, 2 command infantry bases, and 3 Panzerschrecks. The U.S. are going to get 3 Sherman M4s with the Firefly upgrades. I'll explain that in a second. 2 units of U.S. infantry, 2 command bases, and 3 bazooka bases. And it then also gives you everything that you need. 10 dice, a tape measure, PDF downloadable rules, quick start, simple rules, and all markers required for the game. Anyways, let's take a look here. So here are the Panzer IVs. Here are the Shermans. Basically, they're just going to give you probably a longer rod for the Fireflies, for the gun barrel. The U.S. bazooka team, the U.S. infantry team. So, again, they're just great looking little not Lego stuff. And one of the things that attracts me is the fact that the tanks are really, really good representation. Let's see. They do also have, so you can get a U.S. motorized infantry unit, a German motorized infantry unit, British infantry unit. They also have the British versus German starter set. This is actually the one that we're going to be taking a look here. Again, they list it for 65 pounds. Everything that you need included. All right, but obviously that's just for the box sets. If I can get it to go back enough, there we go. All right, you can get additional units. So this is where I think it really shines. All right, so we've got the U.S. heavy mortar unit, 4 pounds. Okay, again, you're just going to get 3 of these little stands. For 4 pounds, basically about $5 US, it's not bad. The equivalent that I've kind of been comparing them to, like Lego poly bags, basically a little bag, tiny little model kit. You're going to pay about $5 US, and it's about 50 to 60 pieces worth of stuff. And that's essentially what you're going to get out of one of these sets. I'm not sure. It doesn't say. Now, obviously, it's lots of tiny pieces, so it's not like they're breaking the bank on the plastic, but it is fairly comparable. And let's be honest, where else are you going to get these kinds of pieces, color appropriate, things like that? So most units, especially in the individual range, so like we've got the Hawker Hurricane Squadron. I actually have one of these to look at. The whole squadron is 17 pounds. I will give you the exact price when I look at it, but it was, I think, like 5 or 6 pounds for one. So you do save a little bit getting the whole squadron, but again, 5 or 6 pounds, translating to $6 to $8 US. Again, right in that poly bag kind of range. So the pricing honestly is not bad, especially when you compare it to other brick type products. Let's see. They do have the British landing craft. It does say it's out of stock. That is actually one of the other questions that I wanted to ask, because as you go through, you're going to actually find a bunch of stuff that is missing. Okay. This page actually does seem that everything is in stock. Where was it that I was seeing that? I want to say it was in, I think it was in the single models. But yeah, okay. So like here's a Stug 3 in a camo version. So I think this is kind of nice. They give you a bunch of different colors. The SDKF Z250 camo armored troop carrier single model, again, out of stock. Panzer 4 camo out of stock. Tiger 1 camo out of stock. So again, lots of models were out of stock. So the question I asked was, I noticed quite a few things out of stock. What's the restock time on those items? I get that you're small, but I just want to tell my viewers what to expect. He did say, we do have some significant delays in getting deliveries from suppliers, and sometimes there are brick shortages, which can affect some sets. This said, we do our best to keep our main range in stock at all times and are growing our stock holdings so that this becomes less of a problem in the future. Perfectly acceptable answer. So they're out of stock now. They should be coming back later. Again, totally acceptable answer, especially when you're dealing with a very small company like this. They're probably having to contact the manufacturer, order a whole bunch. I'm not sure if they're packaging it themselves or if they're having the manufacturer package them. But again, they're dealing with, supply issues just like everyone else. So not too worried about it. They should get those back in stock eventually. All right. Another thing that I did ask, because as you could see, this page is all individual tanks. We also looked at the page where you could buy full units, so getting usually about 3 of them. So I wasn't sure, okay, as far as the rules are concerned, do I have to have a unit of 3? Or the fact that I bought a couple of single models, am I still going to be able to play with those? And that basically was my question. Are tanks in always in units of 3, or can I still use my single Cromwell and Tiger that I got? Same with aircraft. And he replied, all vehicles can operate individually in the game as well as in units. Perfect. Okay. So again, then you're also getting, you've got these trench corners. Let's look at the battlefield and scenery. So you've got, St. Andrew's Damaged Church, 66 pounds, but it's obviously a much larger construction. A bunch of different trench pieces, a trench emplacement where you're getting a bunch of different parts all at once. Destroyed houses, the D-Day cliff and bunker set, control towers, hangars for airplanes, forests, more houses, sandbag scenery, French house with an anti-aircraft gun, damaged church. Again, all sorts of stuff. Some of it also out of stock. Again, totally understandable. So, last thing, I guess, the last question I asked was the game comes with very simple rules, like literally a page and just here's a couple of basics on how things work. It then directs you to go to their website. You do have to sign up for an account and then sign up for their mailing list, and then they'll send you a link so that you can actually download the full simple rules. The full simple rules are only about 12 pages on PDF, but it's basic rules. Now I requested the simple rules. Are the full rules available, or are they still in progress? To which the reply was, the full rules are still being tested. I'm hoping to add a bolt-on to the simple rules at the end of this year, which will give the game a little more depth. Great. Let's be honest. These are bricks that a lot of us enjoy playing with, and assembling anyways. Even if I just got these to put little, Lego tanks on the shelf, I would still be happy with that. So, something to keep in mind. The fact that they're getting rules, they're constantly working on it. If we get more rules or a more advanced rule set coming at the end of the year, I am totally okay with that. All right. Now, before we get into the unboxing, last thing I will say is I did also ask if they would like to come on Topics and Tangents, and which is usually on Thursday. But since they're in the UK and that's going to be about 7 or 8 hours ahead, obviously that's going to be a bit more difficult if I do it on a Thursday evening. So I'm trying to figure out what day will be best. Keep that in mind, folks. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you get notified when they're going to come, when we're going to have that scheduled, because I do try to do those live. All right. With that all said and out of the way, let's take a look at the box now. So this is the starter set. I actually paid £60 for it, not 65. So I'm not sure if there was a price increase or if or if there just was some miscommunication between the manufacturer and the tank museum. Either way, I'm not upset over spending less money. No offense, BricksKrieg. So, with it, on the back of the box, obviously they're showing you everything that you're going to get. You get a bunch of infantry. Whoa, that is not putting it in focus. There we go. You're getting a bunch of infantry. You're getting 3 tanks for each side. You do get a tape, a measure, and dice, and the little rules packet. So, again, they keep it pretty simple. For £60, I mean, I think it's a little bit more expensive than other starter sets, but it's also not horrible. So, this is what you are going to get. Here is essentially the content and the instructions. They do have these QR codes at the top to online versions of the instructions. They don't provide them for... Okay, let me rephrase that. They don't provide them easily for download. You can request them on their website, but this QR code will take you to them. You just can't necessarily save them that way. It's a little frustrating, but I also get it. They're using generic bricks. If they just put their instructions out there, you can just go buy bricks and they're going to go out of business. Honestly, I think the pricing is good enough that just toss them a few bucks. Don't go out of your way to kind of be a jerk with it. And on top of that, if you have a giant collection of your own bricks, you still have the instructions. Once you buy one kit, you can use your own bricks to make your own. So there's that. All right. Obviously, we're going to get a list of everything that it contains. 10 D6 dice, tape measure, printed simple rules reference guide, 3 Churchill tanks, 2 British infantry unit, 1 detachment of British Piats, 3 Panzer IVs, 2 German infantry units, 1 detachment of Panzerschreck. Physical unit cards. Use the QR code at the top of the page for digital versions. That's those. If you are missing any of the pieces, please contact me at HQ, info@BricksKrieg.store. All right. The instructions for building your BricksKrieg models are on our website. All you need to do is join as a member at no charge. Then we will add the instructions to your members area. This means that as you grow your forces, everything you'll need in terms of documents will be available there. Let's see. There's another QR code for the rules PDF and more information. All right. I don't need to read all of that. This is an unboxing. All right. So we get a bag that has the parts and the cards. So this is for the Piat team. Let me slide this out of the way. Oh, Piat and Panzerschreck. All right, so they're going to give you a card. This has all of the stats and they're double-sided. So basically you've got some simple rules. So the weapon, range, and how many shots. And then you also have an advanced version. So 2-hit, move, bravery, skill, weapons, range, shots, anti-tank, power, etc. So you get all of the information you need on the cards with each of the units that you pick up. All right. I do not have the instructions downloaded, but again, we're just dealing with a little poly bag and roughly enough parts for that. So that's the Piat and the Panzerschreck. We're going to end up with a lot of this. So we've got our 3 Churchills. You know, obviously it's going to be more or less the same thing. We've got 3 Panzer IVs. Again, all together. And we've got our various infantry. Some German, some British, all brick built. All right. Dice, just some basic dice. Obviously not super worried about it. The tape measure, which is marked for BricksKrieg, so that's cool. So it says 3 meters. Oh, so it is marked in inches and centimeters, so that's good. These kinds of tape measures are a little hard to find, so it's always nice when you can get those. All right, we'll set that to the side. The dice look pretty generic. They probably ordered them like by the gross ton or something, you know. Whatever. We then have the cards for all of the other units, so the tanks and the infantry. Obviously double-sided. For the Panzer, you're going to get a QR for the rules and QR for the building instructions, which I probably just exposed to the internet. Sorry, Tom. Anyways, again, guys, be nice. Go, if you like them, go buy some. They're not that expensive. All right, and then finally we have the BricksKrieg simple rules. So essentially, this is an 8.5 by 11 double-sided, and that's all they're doing for the rules, for the very simple rules. Okay, like I said, the other one, the rules that you can download, which I just realized that I was totally not zoomed out for this. So again, these are your basic rules. Essentially 4 pages. Well, essentially 2 pages at normal. And this is a normal text font or size, so easy enough to read. Like I said, the more advanced simple rules, you get 9 pages. It's got lots of pictures and diagrams. Really good, really useful. All right, last thing that I want to show off is because I actually did get some of the extra boxes. Now, these are empty because I collapsed everything so that I could get it home. I just kept the boxes so that I could show them off. All right, so these are the planes. I got a British Hurricane and a German Stuka. And both of these were, which if you can see that, were £4.99. So basically £5 or about $6 to $7. Okay. Again, not complaining. You get about 40 to 50 pieces and approximately 1/100 scale. So essentially these are 15 millimeter tanks and planes. You could use this with Flames of War, to be honest. Flames of War is 15 millimeter. You could play your Flames of War in Lego. And then again, you've got QR code to their website. And yeah, this will take you to their website. But then again, just little description. So I got those for planes, and then I also got some heavy tanks. I got the Cromwell, and I got the Tiger 1. Like I said, typically they're going to say units of 3, but I did not have enough room for my suitcase, so I just kept it to 1 tank of each. But that's what I got. Real quick, here are the actual bricks for the Cromwell. Again, you're getting the simple version plus the QR code. And then they also give you this little very basic piece. One thing I did notice, and I've seen this a couple of times, but they do have some unit markings on the tanks, but I'm not actually seeing that on the parts. I will have to ask the company, probably during Topics and Tangents, once we get that scheduled. But my guess is probably just finding some water transfers, which, I mean, it's World War II. Finding water transfers for these is not going to be difficult. Okay. All right. But that's it. So I paid, let's see, £60 for the base set, £10 for the planes, and then another £11 for the 2 tanks. So, about £80. So almost $100. But that's fine. Honestly, I think this is great, especially the fact that I've got grandson now, my own kids, and just the fact that it's adorably cute brick built World War II tanks. So that is BricksKrieg. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I am going to do some more stuff with this. I'm going to do some of my ADHD builds shorts for the different units so that you can see that as they come together, see how the build goes. And again, then we'll start going over rules. I've started doing training Thursdays for other games, so we'll see what we can do for this one as well. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate your time. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If there's somebody you think might enjoy this, make sure you share it with them. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.